Hi, okay, welcome to part four of week seven's online lectures. Final part today. Uh, so we've got through quite a lot actually. So I've looked at both the assignments in quite a bit of detail, talked you through a bit about converged newsrooms and how we arrived at the concept over the last couple of decades. And then for this last part, I just want to talk about a bit about personal experience really of transformation of the newsroom at the MEN in my time there, and Ian Wood. I don't know whether you've come across Ian Wood while I've been at university. Both Ian and I worked together, but we both worked on uh, the transformation of the newsroom at the MEN during our time at the Manchester Evening News. So let's just take a look at this first slide, and on the left you can see the old structure of a newsroom, the old layout, and that was in a building on Deansgate when the MEN was there. And you can basically see a lot of typewriters, a lot of desks laid out. So you'd have the reporters there, the news desk behind, and the sub editors at the far end. So it was basically very uh, sort of separate, really, if you like. And then nowadays, it's a totally different setup, totally different building. The MEN is now at Chadderton in Oldham, and it's based around a hub system. And I'll talk a bit more about that hub because in the old days of print that you can see on the left, there's basically just one thing you're working for each day, and that was just to produce the daily newspaper. The newspaper was the only avenue that you had. An example on the right, you're not only producing a newspaper, but you're producing news for online. There are also elements of TV, radio, social media, the sectors such as data journalism, and it's an entirely more integrated setup. And the layout of the newsroom had to change significantly to accommodate all those new elements. So this will give you a bit of an idea of what we came up with really. So we called it the hub, and it's entirely a new way of looking. So in this hub, this is where sort of the control room, if you like, of the MEN, and there'd be people such as a news editor, there'd be somebody from TV station, radio, there'd be the chief sub maybe who's looking after print, there'd be a social media editor. So all the key sort of managers really who are directing traffic. And the reason they're all sat in a circle all together is so that everybody is aware of what each other's doing really, what stories are coming in, so that everybody from the different area of print, online, social, TV, radio knows what's going on. And you can turn around, you can flip round in those chairs and discuss with each other how you're going to treat each bit of news. You know, does it need to go online straight away? Do you need to start a live blog? Do you need 150 words? Do you need someone to do a piece to camera? Do you need somebody to produce a bit of audio? And all different things like that. So it's a real different hub system, really, where everybody could basically have an idea of what's going on. And these banks here, there'd be various reporters on there, maybe the chief reporter. There might be someone from sport. So very integrated approach, totally different from 30 years ago in that first picture that you saw. So new ways of working really in the new world with all these different platforms really, and the concept we came up with was story first publication really. It's all about the story that comes first, not the platform. That was later developed to digital first rather than print first. So you're always constantly thinking about digital offering first. So the complete change of focus really at the MEN from the old print only days, the mono publishing days, to multi-platform publishing, where you are concentrating on digital first. And the hub system, you always had to be aware of the environment for the stories really, safe versus unsafe really, making sure that all the safety aspects of a story, you know, legally, ethically, are still in place. And it was also a new approach thinking about live against it exclusive. So what story needs to be broken immediately? You know, needs to get out there with a live blog or an immediate, you know, 130 word story before you do a 300 word longer take as a follow up. And that hub system enabled us to think about that and discuss how we treat this various bit of news. So live news is things like, you know, a bus crash or something like that, a train crash. Exclusive content, maybe something like an investigation that we'd worked on, and then we discuss when was the best time to release that information. And you've always got an eye on the rivals as well, because you know if you release something at the wrong time, you're basically putting it into the hands of your rival publishers as well. So the hub created a forum to discuss all those things. So the conference has changed as well. Back in the day, it was just basically all about print. You had multiple print editions of the Manchester Evening News, so you just discuss about print. Whereas the new way of working, you'd still have a number of conferences, but you would discussing stories in the main, and then you'd ensure, you know, when they go out digitally, and then the print would be discussed at those conferences. There'd also be a separate conference for print, but the print would almost be a digest, a roundup of what had been published online. And also at the conference, you're talking about live events, what needs to go up immediately, and then you're discussing sort of future things that were going on, maybe events in the evening, a protest march or something like that. So you're all abreast throughout the day. So we used to have about 4 conferences in a day: an early morning one, a late morning one, a mid-afternoon one, and then an evening one with rolling changes as well. So you keep totally abreast. And the key is that everybody who's, you know, involved in, you know, print, online, social, TV, radio, everybody's aware of what's going on. So you can discuss, you know, the best way to release the stories. But it's all about content. It's all about the story, you know, more so than the platform. Okay, so the MEN, it's the most read UK regional newspaper, if you want to call it, or the biggest website in the regions online, and you can see how much that circulation has plummeted. 25 years ago, it would have been selling in excess of 200,000 copies. Now it's down to about 10,000 copies per day. It's 26,000 including the free copies, which you may have noticed if you go into Manchester's people giving away free copies. And that's down 15% year on year, really. So quite a dramatic slump. But while that slump's been going on, the online figures have been growing dramatically. So it gives you an idea how online has taken over, certainly at the MEN, and why the move to digital first has taken place rather than print first. When I started at the MEN, it was owned by Guardian Media. It was taken over by Trinity Mirror. And then Trinity Mirror changed its name to Reach, and they also bought the Sunday Express, Daily Express, Daily Star, and a company called Local World, which had a lot of local newspapers, a couple of regional newspapers as well. And Reach may well sound a bit of a funny name for a news organisation. It's quite a bit of a departure, but it actually does make sense when you think about it, because the aim is to reach as many people as possible, to get into as many homes, to get as many eyes on stories as possible. And that translates, you know, into advertising as well, revenue. The more eyes you get on the story, the more money the company will make. Journalism's expensive. People always, you know, are quite staggered when I say that news is an expensive commodity, and it is. It's expensive to produce. Journalists need paying, systems need paying for. So, you know, advertising revenue is obviously a key component of any news organisation. And you can just see how successful Reach is. It owns a lot of regional newspapers, a lot of local newspapers, and their respective websites, some national websites, national newspapers, Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror, Daily Express, Sunday Express, Daily Star, and you can see in the UK how powerful it is. So it's sixth in line with and all the top five sites there have online reach of more than 80%. So reach is a massive player really, and its transformation to a digital first business has been quite astonishing really, making the revenues as good as they were for print is a different matter. But in terms of eyes on news and how journalists are going about getting their content read, it's undeniable how successful it's been. And that's allied to the daily print ABC figures, where dramatic decline all the way. We talked about that in the last part. UK Nationals news brands total monthly brand reach. Again, so you can see the reach of these titles, 24 million, The Guardian, 8.5 million, The Times. So the reach of these news organisations now is fairly substantial, there's no doubt about it. You can see the Daily Mirror there as well, 25 million. So that's a monthly brand reach. And there was a mantra at the MEN towards the end when I sort of finished there in the summer of 2018. If it doesn't work on mobile, it doesn't work. And it took us a while to work that out really, that people weren't accessing news on the desktop. So there was a transformation all of a sudden where instead of on the screens, looking at the desktop version of a website, we all started looking at the mobile version, because that's where we realised the vast majority of people are consuming their news from and seeing the adverts and things like that. So it's basically, when you're designing a site and when you're looking to publish content, you've always got in your mind, how will it look on people's phones? And there's a bit of debate around the MEN. There's a lot of pop-ups and surveys going. It can be quite a frustrating experience at times. And as a journalist, you always want to make it as easy and as accessible as possible for your readers. But unfortunately, like I say, news is an expensive commodity, and we do need to appreciate that our commercial colleagues need to raise revenue from that. So there's always a bit of a trade-off there. Like ideally, you'd like it like the BBC, where you just go straight to the content, but it's a totally different funding model for the BBC than it is for private or public limited companies. So basically, you're always thinking, will this work on mobile? Okay, so I hope that's given you a bit of an idea about the MEN. Just to say that it's an ongoing process at the MEN as well now. I know COVID, there's a lot of journalists sort of working from home now, but the newsroom structure sort of remains the same. A lot of it's done on Zoom now, but there's still discussions underway about whether to move people back into a more formal newsroom setting, like I said, or to keep people working from home. And I suspect myself there'll be a half and half measure, where a lot of the reporters will be working out in the field, which has its advantages because you're out and about spotting stories instead of sat behind the desk, which is what you want to do. But there may be benefits of sort of the news desk and things working together and things like that. So it's one to keep an eye on there. Basically, news operations these days have to be agile. They have to react to trends. They've got to keep an eye on how consumers are reading news, things like that. So I want to keep an eye on it. If you've got any questions about newsroom structures, please feel free to ask me in various workshops. So, okay, well, thanks for listening to me today. Look forward to seeing you in the workshop, and these slides will be available for you to look at in Blackboard as well. So, okay, thank you very much.